Hello everyone, I'm Barbara Sanchez and I'm going to be discussing chapter 1, pages 1 through 16. And the name of the chapter is The Importance of Communication. All right, we'll get started. Communication is complex. It is necessary to build relationships and especially to maintain them. Basically, we need it in order to survive. The communication process. Messages, it's a way where messages are sent simultaneously. Okay, it's not just one message at a time. Facial expressions, gestures, tone of voice, posture, all this influences communication. Okay, believe it or not, most of the communication that is sent has to do with nonverbal. Okay, what we spoke about just now, facial expressions, body language. So 55% of the message has to do with nonverbal elements, whereas only 6% of the message that's delivered has to do with the words that we speak. Okay, you can see here on the left side of the screen, kind of portraying certain messages based on the way that these people are holding themselves up, their body language. All right. Contextual environment. We're talking about the physical location of the interaction as well as the personal history that each participant in the conversation brings. Overlap. What in the world is overlapping? This has a lot to do with backgrounds, levels of interest, knowledge about what's being communicated, experiences, is what you are saying relating to the other person. That is overlapping. And then we speak about noise. Okay, noise doesn't necessarily mean what you hear, an unpleasant sound. It's anything that would distract from the communication process. It can be anything from, well, I'll discuss that in the next slide here. You can see the different types of noises. Okay, we have external, lights that flicker, a microphone squeal. We have physiological. Physiological refers to, for example, if you're exhausted, if you're hungry, if you're sick. And we have psychological factors that influence noise. Okay, these are noises that are present in your mind. For example, prejudgments about other people, random thoughts that just pop in your head. All right, the messages that we receive doesn't necessarily reflect the intent of the person that's giving the message. In other words, Jan might want to relay something to Bob, but Bob takes it a different way than what Jan intended. All right. Prerequisite skills for seeking to become an interpreter. Okay. You must learn to think analytically, number one, and that means using your logical reasoning. Okay? Listen, don't just hear what's being said, but actually take the time to listen and break things down so you can clearly understand. Number three, express yourself clearly in all forms, be it sign, speech, spoken, whatever the case might be. Okay, to be competent in communication, it's a situational thing. It's dependent on culture, It's dependent on personal history and the relationships of the people that are involved. Communication is considered relational. Why? Because it entails other people. It involves others. Developing your skills is crucial to become an effective professional interpreter. Okay, we're getting into pragmatic rules now. Okay, this helps in determining the meaning of what's being said. There are contextual factors. Okay, this is what's involved, and basically contextual factors include, excuse me, who made the statement, the location where it was being said, the tone of voice, and the nonverbal behavior. Also, the relationship between the sender and the receiver. Okay, for interpreters, we have to be able to extract the whole meaning from what is expected to be interpreted in order for the interpretation to be completely effective. All right, the construction of messages, and these include 6 factors. You can see them right over here on the screen. I'm not going to read through all of them, but okay, so these are responsible for what constructs the bulk of the messages. Okay, next slide. Speaker sign or goal. Basically, this is the why of message construction. Okay, it's a reason behind the statement or the question being made. Okay, why are you saying this? What is your intent? Over here in figure 1.1, excuse me, there we go. You can see the different types of speaker goals here. There are many, many goals that the person is trying to get across to the other. Context is the who and the where of message construction. Who are we communicating with, and where is the communication taking place? Okay, the who is relevant to the level of status of the person that you're speaking with. For example, you wouldn't talk to the CEO of a company the same way that you would speak to a 14-year-old student. Okay, there's certain verbiage that you use, things such as eye gaze, volume of speech, your posture. All those can influence the appropriate ways of addressing the who. Okay, you have to be aware of cultural norms, because here in the US, it's okay to look at somebody in the eye. Actually, it's encouraged to look at somebody in the eye when you're addressing them. But in other countries, it's not acceptable. It's actually considered as being rude. So be aware of that. All right, the where refers to the location of the interaction. Okay, are you in a private location or are you in a public location? For example, if you're having a heated debate with your boss, if you have to address your boss about something that happened earlier, you have more flexibility when you're in a private location as opposed to speaking in front of the rest of your coworkers. Okay, one scenario can bring a benefit to your conversation. The other scenario can get you fired if you're not careful. Degree of directedness. How clear are you when you are communicating? Okay, clarity versus less direct or implicit hinting. You can see here there's an example of this lady and this man. She is hinting her point across. It's been a long time since I had Mexican food, and basically he's saying, okay, he's being direct, let's go to Jose Taco's restaurant tonight. That's what we're referring to here. Powerful versus powerless speech. Okay, with powerful speech, you are being more credible, as opposed to powerless is not as credible. With one, you're more confident. With the other, you're not so confident. With one, you are more authoritative. With the other, you're just kind of, you know what I mean. All right. So here we are describing less powerful. Excuse me. Okay. Here we've got, imprecision producing language, basically less powerful speech. Equivocal, euphemistic, abstract, and passive voice. And you've got an example of what each of them are right here on the screen, as well as what they mean. Okay, you can go over that. In the next slide, you can see what powerless speech looks like. And basically it entails hesitations, intensifiers, polite forms, tag questions, and uptalk, disclaimers. All right, and again, an example and what they mean. Okay, research shows that powerful language results in others as seeing you more dynamic, more capable, and more socially attractive. So whenever possible, you want to be able to use powerful language. But you got to be balanced and discerning as well, because if you use too much powerful language, you might come across as being too bossy or rude or intimidating. Okay, be discerning. Right, and here you have examples of powerful versus powerless speech. Responsible language, message accountability. This is probably my favorite part of the chapter right here. Years ago when I did personal coaching, I was taught the importance of using more I statements as opposed to you. You always do this to me, or I don't like it when you do that, because it sounds like you're being accusatory to the other person. Okay, with statements such as the one that you see here in blue, I believe television adversely affects the moral development of children. You're putting more emphasis on you. Okay, you're being responsible for your speech as opposed to putting the blame on something or someone else. Okay, and using but statements. You're a wonderful employee. You do this, this, and that, but you get to work late too much, or that's just an example, but, you know, when you say but, you are excluding everything good that you said about the person prior to the but. You try not to use too many buts. Okay, and finally, linguistic register. This is the degree of formality in message construction. It conveys level of formality or familiarity between participants. Okay, you can see examples here on the left side. This is basically what comes about when you apply these 5 levels of formality, which are frozen, formal, consultative, informal, and intimate. Okay, these are how linguistic register influences. All right, so that is my part of this recording. My partner, Nicole Passos, is going to finish chapter 1. She'll be taking care of pages 17 through 28. And don't forget, okay, test your skills. We have formulated a Kahoot quiz for you. Here is the address. Feel free to check it out and quiz yourself. And thank you so much for your time.